Day 800. As I was watching my Amevian skinny dip in a 2x2 pool, I was still desperate to raise my population. My final goal wouldn't actually be to take over the whole world, as I'd learnt starting on an area with a bunch of small barren islands was a bad idea, as I couldn't evolve any of my captured regions any further than the first level. Day 803. After waiting a bit, I built some canals for future farming. Day 807, built a weaver to keep up with demand. And on day 809, in reaction to this, I also built a cotton farm just in case, whilst fast forwarding. Day 810, a mini Amevian hatchery was built. My population was doing fine, as I had a surplus workforce, but it would be a shame if something would be to happen to this. Day 812, I couldn't risk reducing my workforce further, as other pandemics could happen, wiping out my population, so I didn't want to put a bunch more of my Amevians into the military. Yes, sure, I can train them up, but it wouldn't be worth the population or the workforce. So I went over to one of my colonies that could be evolved, and I started recruiting a bunch of troops in that city. So I built a training ground there to start this process. The next day, I built some more houses. Day 817. The world's smallest embassy was built in the little space I had left, and I was sick of the notifications telling me that my embassy points were running thin. This was the strategy for the past 200 days. Slowly gaining embassy points every time my population increased, so I could gain opinion and invade other territories. But later on in this video, you'll see that I found another way, which was maybe a little bit more easier, but it does require some time to kind of build up, and that was through trade and buying regions with the money that I'd earn in the future. Day 818. Built some new roads to a future settlement in the south to expand my food and clay production. After this, I built out the warehouse, then a pump for irrigation. Oh yeah, I also built the canals. The next day, a fishery was also added for a starting food supply, with more houses as well. Day 821. Some more roads were added. Day 822. My prisons were becoming overcrowded, so the next day, I built a supermassive supermax prison for all of my most deadly of inmates to keep everyone happy, as if you just keep your inmates inside of a stockade, that wouldn't increase happiness, that would decrease it, because that wouldn't count as someone being punished. They'd just be put in a stockade, which doesn't count. Day 824. A woodcutter and a notification warning me that there could be a future pandemic, as I was slowly building up my population, and I didn't want this to be undone, but it looks like that would happen soon. Oh no. So on day 825, I built a new physician just in case, just to boost my health amongst my citizens. Day 827, built a carpenter to produce furniture in a new settlement locally. Then on day 830, it happened. But this time, it was the plague, an even more deadlier disease than last time. Luckily, I spammed the curfew button a lot, and my health rating was still very good, so I only lost about 200 people. Although this would take a couple of years to regrow slowly, I had an issue with my population dying from overheating in insane asylums, so I couldn't do too much to increase my population other than building more hatcheries, which require workers to actually be present, so it's a catch-22 situation. After waiting some time and with over 100 missing workers, on day 841, I built a market to boost happiness in a new settlement. Day 844, I was now down to minus 74 missing workers, slowly making progress. Eventually, on day 860, I noticed that one of my neighbour's realms had collapsed, meaning I could sweep in with my military and mercenaries and take some territory. This was useful, as this territory also had some regions on the mainland, although this would be harder, as regions on the mainland could genuinely grow a larger military. It would be more worth it, as I was strong enough to conquer them, and I was gaining a lot of money through trade as well. However, there was a pig empire to the far west, and I had to act fast, otherwise that empire would take all of the free cities and I'd be left with nothing. Oh yeah, one of these regions was also really good at producing leather, so I needed to act fast too. Therefore, I decided to act, and I hired a bunch of archer mercenaries, marched into one of the cities in my way, and won. I then set the city's tax to collecting ore, and then after that, I basically fired a bunch of ore miners so that they wouldn't have to work in a job they didn't like doing. Day 862, another lizard pasture was built. Day 864, expanded my army to earn more money by firing the cheap mercenaries guarding some of my regions. It's clear I had the ration production to do this as well. Day 868, placed down another Amevian hatchery and on day 873, I expanded my cotton production. Unlike Factorio, you can't rely on mass production in this game. You have to monitor how many workers you have, and by thinking about every time you expand, how much of that population isn't going to be free anymore. I prefer to play this way. Could be wrong. Day 874, a new weaver in a new settlement for the hatcheries. The next day, I built a large hatchery, and on day 876, I was forced to build a janitor on one of my roads, as I'd noticed that a lot of my workshops in the first settlement had high demand for repairs, and you can actually see it's getting all grainy and, you know, there's all this kind of black dots all over the place. Anyways, and finally, on day 882, I started training up small armies in my largest colony. Day 891, built another opium farm for localized hospital usage. By increasing supply without building any haulers, I was killing two birds with one massive stone. Sometime later on day 901, I had noticed nobody had claimed the two territories that I wanted, so I still had some time. I gathered some mercenaries and marched on to the next free city in my way, and on day 903, with my sluggish band of 15 Crotonian archers, I had captured the city and immediately set it to ore production too. Then on day 904, I did the same thing with another army. And on day 905, I added a spy headquarters to raise loyalty by 10% in all of my regions. Day 906, another Amevian hatchery was built, because my population just wasn't rising fast enough. I understand this takes workers, but, you know, people can stop working in other locations. I genuinely needed more workers at this point. Day 913, I still had absolutely no progress to my population, so I decided to add another hospital to save people's lives, I guess, so they wouldn't die, they'd have a 50% chance of survival. Day 917, I decided to enlist some more colonists into the military. Day 923. As I was hiring my own troops and firing all of the mercenaries, I had become really rich again. So I bought myself my very first private island and set it to clay production because I fucking love science. Day 926. I felt, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna buy another one and set it to stone production, as my stone supply was running low and I needed it for cut stone. And this was to build more statues so that my Amevians would be happier, I guess. Day 929. I built a massive pottery to deal with all of the alcohol I would need to produce and store in the future. Day 930, this was also joined by the world's smallest clay pit. Day 933, I got into another fight with a free city, and of course won, then changed all of their industries to give me more ore, like a little ore whore, as if I couldn't want any more. Day 934, built a stage and some housing at this new settlement. Day 935, I decided it was time to take these landlubbers on by surprise, and saw that the other pig empire had already conquered one of the free cities to the west, so I was in desperate need to capture this as soon as possible. But unfortunately, the little piggies couldn't run away fast enough from the big bad wolf. So on day 936, I was defeated. Humiliated by this, on day 939, I returned with some new colonists and with much stronger archers. The colonists had no chance, but the land was ours, so ahoy. Wait, I didn't even reach it? It was another free city? Well, I be damned. Anyways, on day 943, I actually did fight the right city this time, and they immediately surrendered upon seeing me on the battlefield. Damn, am I really that ugly? On this city, due to the amount of land, I could upgrade it multiple times and tax it of all of its leather. I would then eventually fulfill my Amevian's furniture demands by also giving them access to leather, as leather was no longer that scarce. I was raking in a couple dozen every single day. Day 968, built an IPA microbrewery and a nursery right next to each other. The next day, a massive Globdian pasture on the east bank of the river. Day 978, some more housing. And on day 983, after a long period of time, I decided to get more innovation by building another lab. Day 985, I also built a physician in the new settlement too, even though I was lacking workers. Then on day 986, some sweet upgrades to metal smelters, weavers, and breweries. Day 987, built some more canals for future farmlands, then researched for more tools to be used in industry to further create more tools. Day 989, earned enough fat stacks again and bought another island, this time also producing clay for that sweet technological innovation. After placing down more statues like a boss, on day 991, a large carpenter was built in hopes of providing my population with a stable furniture supply in use of their furniture. So I basically would be able to give them access to furniture as furniture, if that makes sense. Something I'd also noticed was that on day 995, I was getting hella close to unlocking the administration building, something I've only ever dreamed of and something that I've only ever achieved in older versions of the game, where the game was a lot easier and the boundaries for unlocking things were a lot lower. So to speed this up, I built a large Amevian hatchery. The next day, a toilet, and an event I decided to be a buzzkill about, and did nothing. My population wasn't growing fast, so on day 997, I built another hatchery. Finally, I spoke too soon. My wishes had come true, and on day 998, I built the city's first admin building. I waited all night to watch this get finished, like a child waiting on Christmas Eve for Christmas Day. I was truly soy-facing at this moment, due to the fact that this would give me a 5% boost to everything. Yes, everything in the city. Not just industries, but farms, but mines, everything. And on day 999, I built another one too, to relive that experience all over again. In celebration of day 1000 in Songs of Syx, I rewarded my city with just a paper maker. And this is where I'll leave the tale of the Amevian people here. This will probably be my last video on this city, but I might show it on a few live streams, so please be on the lookout for that if you're interested. Also, these videos do actually take a lot of time to create, and it was kind of hard balancing my own personal time with creating these videos. Like, I do want to go outside, so apologies if they've not been done every single day. I'm also not used to creating a lot of videos as well, so I did my best. Eventually, the day after this video comes out, I'll probably make a movie with all the episodes compiled together, edited down, so that you don't have an intro every single time, like it's a new 100 days. I also didn't like how some of the city turned out. For instance, I had a lot of diagonal roads. I was trying to be organic, but in some areas, it just seemed like a waste of space. And, you know, at the beginning it worked really good, but when I tried to squeeze things in, it kind of ruined how the city looked. Maybe in the future I'll try an easier map where there's more space and less forests, definitely, because forests, they're not really good for farmland or pastures. But until next time, I hope you guys have enjoyed this whole majestic journey, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.